Good morning, Soraya. How you doing today?
I'm all right. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good and looking forward to this episode. So we've had two episodes officially where we've talked about Bill Bartell, Pat Fear, and on the first one we got together with Dave Markey, Ronnie Barnett, Jennifer and Jordan Schwartz, and that was a great conversation. And
Yeah.
during that conversation, they recommended that we speak with Howie Pyro and Bruce Duff. So our second episode focusing on Bill, we did get a hold of Howie Pyro, and he was kind enough to bring in Jeff McDonald, and that was a great conversation too. And today we're talking with a small panel with Bruce Duff and Michael Quercio
Very.
about Bill Bartell. Yeah, so it should be interesting because I know we've had some pre-discussions with Michael, and he shared some great stories with us offline. So we wanted to make sure we get them recorded with some of these stories because some of these were amazing stories.
Yes.
So I say let's let Bruce and Michael join the conversation.
Let's get it on.
Hi, this is Soraya.
And this is Jeff.
Our podcast is called Paisley Stage Raspberry and Rhyme,
a podcast where the two of us play music that we like and share anecdotes and background about the tunes.
We hope you'll join our conversation. And without further ado, agruviar.
Let's get groovy. Here we go.
Can you see me?
No, we see the technical difficulties.
The technical difficulties.
All right. Should be. There we are.
Hey, there we go. How you doing, Bruce?
I'm all right. How are you guys?
We're doing great. Look at that collection behind you.
Oh yeah. We try not to show there's an area right over there where my wife has a workstation. She has like a Etsy store that's fairly successful. So what used to be a dining room table is a pile of shipping items. So
nice.
It makes us look a little Well, it looks a little Addams Family no matter where you are in here. So it doesn't matter.
Nice. And do we have Michael?
I don't think so. Wait, there he is. Yeah, he's coming up.
Oh, there's Michael.
Is it all happening? Hi, Mike.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi there.
All right. Well, we're so glad to have you both on. We've had a couple discussions about Bill Bartell in the past, and both of your names came up of people that we need to talk to if we want to learn more about Bill Bartell. And for our listeners, of course, you'll know Michael because Michael's been on the show before. Michael of Salvation Army, The 3 O'Clock, Jupiter Effect, Permanent Green Light, Imperial Butt Wizards. We've talked with Michael about game theory and some of the production that he's done. But we wanted to welcome you back, Michael. Thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you for having me. Can you hear me? You can hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay.
And you look fabulous too.
Oh, thank you, Dave.
But new to our show is Bruce Duff. And Bruce has been on tons of projects. Just reading through the Discogs, Bruce is a musician, a bass player, producer, journalist, publicist, A&R director, product manager, artist manager, having written for LA Weekly, Billboard, bass player, Cream, Guitar World, all kinds of stuff. And
he's famous. I mean, I know who Bruce Duff is just by reputation alone.
Yeah.
He's like the real.
Who does it?
He's not like the usual like crummy guest like me. He's like real.
Yeah. And Bruce has played with a number of bands. Some that interest me are 45 Grave, Twisted Roots, which I would love to talk more about someday, and currently with Street Walking Cheetahs, right? And speaking of Street Walking Cheetahs, Bruce helped produce a video, Flatten the Curve, which is really fun, and brought in some of the people that have been on our show, Stephen McDonald, Melanie from the Pandoras. So if you haven't seen it, go watch Flatten the Curve, FTC, a video about what we're dealing with the pandemic. Very cool. So Bruce, we wanted to
Were you in the 45 Grave like 81 era, 82?
No, I was in the band like 83. I think I want to say it was either 82 going into 83 or 83 going into 84. I was only in for 6 months. Basically,
I opened for at the Whiskey. It was a Salvation Army on 45 Graves. So I'm not sure if.
I would not do that show. I think that was before me.
Okay.
Very cool. So, Bruce, welcome to our show. And you were saying about the video?
Oh, just that, it was like one of the first things I did when we all were in lockdown, and like we were rushing to get it out, which we're trying to get it out in March. We finally got it out in April, and we thought, wow, we just got it out in the nick of time. And, it's November and we're still in the same boat. So it's just kind of a joke. That's all.
Yeah. That's a fun video. Yeah. And
Very-
yeah. So we wanted to ask you guys, Bill Bartell, could you guys tell us how you first met Bill? I think we should start with Bruce, because I think you live, or you are from my area in the Inland Empire. I'm from Temecula, and I think you're from Riverside County. Is that right? Riverside County?
Yeah.
So how did you meet Bill originally? I think you're probably the person that has known him the longest that we've talked to.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Well, Bill lived in what was called Sunnymead. It's not called that anymore. Now it's the Moreno Valley. But back then, at the end of the 70s, going into the 80s, it was, kind of like the Valley was in I guess, the 50s or something. It was still pretty spread out, a lot of ranches. It wasn't like tract homes and miles of like it is now, like a valley, urban area, a little more spread out. So it was a little bit more, we kind of looked at it as the sticks, although, the Inland Empire back then was pretty much the sticks anyway. So at the time, I worked at a guitar store teaching guitar and bass in Arlington. And a fellow I knew started this rock magazine in Riverside. He was just a couple of years older than me, but he had this bilingual Spanish American free magazine that was supported by advertisement that came out in the two Riverside barrios. And these two barrios were always butting heads and gang fights and all this stuff. And he was like, we're all Chicanos, let's get along. And so that was sort of the concept of his magazine. And it was a hit. Well, he was also like a guitar player and a music freak. He came into my store one day and goes, hey man, my magazine's a big success. I'm going to start a rock magazine. Will you edit it? And I knew the guy, and I just kind of looked at him and went, sure. I didn't know anything about how magazines were made. I'd never written for one, never took journalism or anything, but we did it, and it sort of took off locally. So one day I'm at the store, and I get a call from this kid. It's Bill Bartell, and he says, hey man, I dig your magazine. I want to write for it. How do I do that? I go, send me something. I could use a record review. I think I signed him a Ramones review. He sent it in. It was great. And this was kind of near the end. We did 6 magazines, and then the thing sort of fell apart. The guy tried to sell it to another publisher and a bunch of boring stuff we won't get into. But Bill actually wrote for the very last magazine we did, which was the 6th one. I have it here. This cover story, Cheap Trick, he wrote. And then down here is a little tag, Roxy Filming. That was a Devo shoot, and he wrote that. And then his Ramones review is in here. Something kind of funny I found when I was looking in this last night. Let's see if I can find it real quick. So we had a classified section free for bands and stuff. The first ad reads, young original band looking for new drummer. Our market is larger than Riverside area, and we're looking to make it. No top 40, country, or funk. If interested and qualified, call Bill or Marty. So that was those guys getting their first band together. So, yeah, so that would have been the end of 78, and that's how I got to know Bill.
Wow. That's been a while. So, Michael, how did you first meet Bill or learn about Bill? Do you remember?
I met Bill originally through Jeff and Steve from Red Cross.
Oh, okay.
Who I was hanging out with. They're from the same area as me here up in South Bay. And he was like a friend of theirs. And he just kind of, trying to think, became like, I started being a friend of mine. And he would turn me on to music and things. I remember he's the one that turned me on to Os Mutantes.
Oh yes.
And he pretty much was the only person in the country that knew who they were. And he pretty much single-handedly, I think, opened them up to the American psyche, because he just grew up apparently where Bruce was saying, and apparently he had Brazilian neighbors who had their first record.
I think his sister had
And-
gone to Brazil on some sort of trip and brought the record home and said, "You'll like this."
Oh, is that what it was?
I
Okay.
think so. Yeah, I was anybody that knew Bill, one of the first things he talked about was Os Mutantes. It was just like a crusade from when he was very young.
Yes, he gave me a cassette, and then we all went on a trip to Las Vegas with it was this huge. We all got on a plane to go see the Bangles and the Go-Go's at Caesar's Palace, and this would have been like 84. This is pre-Prince. This is when the Bangles' first Columbia album. This is before the Prince thing. So they got a gig opening for the Go-Go's. And so we all thought that'd be fun. Why don't we all go and go see this? And so we all got on a plane. It was just all of the Red Cross guys and me and the other guy from 3 o'clock. He was dating Susanna Hoffs, and was she was, we all went to go, and we're just all on. And Bill Bartell was part of this entourage, and we hung out at Caesar's Palace. We all slept on the floor of, I think, the guys in Red Cross room or whatever. I think Bill and I and Sue. Bill always just seemed to be able. He was that guy that just seemed to be able to be at the right place at the right time. Like we're all gonna have dinner, so it's Bill Bartell and me, and I think Jeff and Susanna Hoffs, and then who shows up? We're all at the table going to have dinner in this little restaurant in Caesar's Palace, and who walks by but Belinda Carlisle and the guy from the Calvin Klein ad. Calvin Klein ad was the muscular guy that's lying on a rock in his underwear.
Right. Yeah.
The picture was all over the 80s, So it's him. So they just say hi, then they sit down and they have dinner with us, and they're all coked out. And I don't remember Bill Bartell ever doing any drugs at all. I don't think he was into drugs. I don't even think I ever saw him drink.
Wow.
He was into Diet Coke.
Diet Coke, okay.
No,
So
I don't mean.
that was the trip.
No.
Go ahead.
He took Diet Coke at that level, so other people took heroin.
But it was just
No, I'm not trying to be
music.
funny. A lot of people think that
Cool.
killed him.
Oh, wow.
That's why he had diabetes and stuff.
From Diet Coke?
I didn't realize, because I was actually on the road with him for a week in Spain, and he would drink like 2 of those, whatever they are, gallon plastic bottles of Diet Coke on a van ride. And and by the end of it, he'd be like a fly buzzing around in this van. And everyone was like trying to calm him down. Like, it was crazy. When you saw it up close, it was kind of alarming. So,
Wow.
Wow.
So like the 2-liter
I-
bottles.
but
right?
that was his choice.
Caffeine.
But he looked down on all other drug use and alcohol and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, I remember he did look down on alcohol and drug use, and he was just wild and fun, and I could go on. I don't know. Let's Jeffrey take the conversation to where you wanted to go, Jeff.
So we were
That's how I met him.
Yeah, so we were very curious if you guys remember stories that kind of describe who Bill was to you guys. So Bruce, you knew Bill early.
I would say like Bill was pretty, a couple things about him. He was pretty clear on what he liked and what he wanted to pursue. And when Michael's talking about how he sort of was in the right place at the right time, yes, that's true. And I think Bill deliberately placed himself in those places. He knew what he dug, and he knew who he wanted to get to know, and he would just insert himself into those lives. Just like, I don't know how he found out where I worked, but he found me and got on this magazine, and he just kind of made things happen. I have here, you might not know this, Metal Massacre. Which one is this? 4?
Oh yes.
No, 3. This was a series of records Metal Place Records made. My Own Little Gestures of Destiny was on number 5. That's how we got going. this is the third one, and it features Test Pattern. That's Bill's first band, and they you know, he's associated with punk rock, but Test Pattern were trying to be Blue Oyster Cult. He loved Blue Oyster Cult. And
yes, he did, yes.
so Test Pattern, Bite the Knife, Bill Bartell credited with lead vocals, lead guitar, and lawnmower, which is probably true. Marty was on it, playing lead. He hadn't switched to bass yet. And Victor and Dean. Victor had a studio and was recording Bill all the way up to the end. Some tapes got lost. I was on some stuff that was this big Tater Tots production with like 20 people on it doing covers of Queen and the Rattles. I can't make this stuff up. And somehow the tapes got screwed up. They never came out. It was a big controversy. I don't know what happened, but one of the first things I dealt with Bill musically was he started his own label, the infamous Gas a Tanker Records. This is a 45 box set that I have. Got great stuff. Anyways, so because of when I taught guitar in Riverside, Bill knew about that. You know, a lot of what you would do, I taught Gary Lyons, who ended up in the Blackhearts. He was a Riverside kid, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer.
Wow.
So anyways, a lot of times what you do, kids, this was the 70s, kids would walk in with their Ted Nugent or Aerosmith records and show me how to do this. So I learned how to just play things right off the, you know, from a record pretty quick and show somebody how to do it in a half hour. So with that in mind, Bill calls me one day and he goes, Red Cross are recording a covers record. Could you play the guitar solo to Deuce by Kiss? I go, I guess so. He goes, okay, be there at 5. I go, 5? I'm at work, man. So I was literally at work that day. I went home for lunch and I happened to have the live record, put it on. I go, okay, I think I get the basic gist of it, but I didn't have time to like sit down and learn it note for note, which I think is what they thought I was going to do. So I show up with my roommate's Les Paul and a Stratocaster. Geza X is producing the thing. It was at Kitchen Sink, which a lot of people recorded it. It was Kim Fowley's home base. And I'd been there before, so I was comfortable with the place. I walked in, the whole studio, it was just Geza, Bill, and the two brothers, was in chaos. And I walked in with my guitar and said, hey, I'm here to play. Here, I got my guitars, and Gaze's like, no, put those down. Play this. And he handed me Jeff's BC Rich. They had just got a BC Rich endorsement of all things. Horrible guitar. Strings are like this far off the neck. I could barely play it, but they had it all dialed in. You know, this is what they wanted. And Gaze is all frantic. The entire time I was there, I played the 2 solos. I go, cool, man. Getting ready to get up, and Gaze is like, what are you doing? I go, I played the 2 solos. He goes, there's a third one. I go, there's a third one? Who puts 3 solos in a 4-minute song? I never even got that far in the record. Anyway, so I did it. I just made some shit up off the top of my head. Gaze was happy. I heard that the band hated it because it wasn't note for note what Kiss did. But anyways, the entire time I'm there, I'm in the control room playing along with Geza. The 2 brothers are out in the studio, and I swear this is true. They were like head to head, this close, screaming at each other the entire time I was there. I have no idea what about, but just furiously angry. All the same time, Bill is out in the studio where there's a 2-track. Now we're on a 16 track, I suppose it was, multi-track. So working with the 2 tracks down the road a piece, it's not ready to mix. So I kept thinking, what is Bill doing? So he's fiddling around with tape and everything in the studio while the brothers are arguing and I'm playing guitar. I leave, the record comes out, and then I get this cassette from Bill, and it's called the Red Cross tapes. So what Bill had been doing is he was taping the brothers arguing and made sort of like a Trogs tape of it, and then made cassettes of it and gave it to all his friends.
Oh my God.
And I at his memorial, I tore my place apart looking for it. I could not find it, but it is a true story. He made tapes of the brothers art, and when they got into it, they're not like this anymore, but they could argue. Those guys could go.
That is hilarious.
I mean, that's how Bill's mind worked. You know, he saw this like a perfect idea for a prank and just got some tape and spooled it up and set up. Nobody even noticed what he was doing. Gaza didn't pick up on it. It's great.
That's hilarious. So, Michael, you were a part of Tater Tots as well. Did you have any kind of experiences during your recording of the Tater Tots?
Yes, before the Tater Tot, big. I'm trying to think of what the show was. It was really one of my first productions with Bill. Bill had put on some huge production at a theater. I forget what it was, but the thing was we were all going to do Tomorrow Never Knows. I think it was I forget what it was, but I ended up playing guitar with Bill, doing Tomorrow Never Knows and singing it. And then I think I also got up and did Beth, and Bill had all the tapes ready. It was in front of this big audience, these 2 Kiss, the Beatles song and the Kiss song. I forget what the deal for the show was, but it was at this big theater. And that's where I first met the Imperial Butt Wizard people, because they were kind of, Paul Kay was part of this extravaganza too. Paul Kay was in charge because this big production of me singing Tomorrow Never Knows also had Bill on guitar and then a big dancers, and all the dancers were choreographed by Paul Kay from the Butt Wizards. And that's how I met Paul Kay. And then after that, Bill invited me to come and play on the Tater Tot, some recordings, and I became a Tater Tot, you know, but it was all different. You weren't in the studio at the same time. I would drive all the way out to Riverside, and he had a studio out there where I would lay down bass and vocals. I remember one time Gwen Conn, the original Pandora, Gwen Conn came out with me, who's an old dear friend.
Who has seen the wind? Neither you nor I. But when the trees bow down their heads, the wind is had seen.
During all this, Bill had a function. Bill would get, apparently at this time at the hotel in LA, they would have Beatle Fest. You know what the Beatle Fest
Yeah,
is?
that was in Pasadena, I want to say, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, Pasadena
Now,
Convention
the
Center.
first time they performed was not, maybe Bruce was part of this band the first time they did it.
No, I remember the event.
But the first time Bill got a group of people to perform at this fest with these, like, I know he got Christy McNichol's brother to be in on the band, and he got another girl that was an old friend who had come out from New York to live in LA, and he got her to dress up in a meat bikini. But no, he got her to be, this is the first time with Jennifer Schwartz to be Yoko. They did Don't Worry Kyoko at the Beatle Fest,
Yeah.
which was Bill and Jimmy McNichol and Jennifer Schwartz and the McDonald brothers. And it would cause such a riot because they were crazy, and she was dressed in a Yoko mask, and she was throwing like grapefruits at the audience, and it caused a riot. And it was like, what, you can't do this. No, Yoko's bad. And so it was, Bill recorded the entire thing, including coming up and wanting to beat them up afterwards. And it came out on a 45 that Bill put out on Gasatanka, Live Hate at Beatlefest,
Yeah.
which I still have in my collection. And it's just performance and then the audience coming up and some guy trying to punch him. And it was called Live Hate at Beatlefest because it was hate. So then the next year, he managed under a different name to get on the bill again. Usually these bills were just these like really bad Beatle cover bands, dressed up, in the skinny tie and then so this next year I got involved and I played bass and they cut us off in the middle because they realized it was Bill again.
What?
They remembered him from the chaos that he had caused the year before. So we got cut off. I don't even know if we were able to start playing before they realized who it was.
I was not aware of that there was a second performance.
Yeah, and that was all again at that hotel in downtown LA at the Beatle Fest. And I remember I think the promoter was trying to throw us out, I think they tried to pick us up by the collar and throw us out.
It was for a show being, borderline performance art.
Yeah, exactly.
Well.
That was Bill, and
I did some. I played something with him. I'd already lived here, but the show was in Riverside, I think someplace on Main Street, and it was somehow Don Bowles related, but it wasn't 45 Grave. I think they were opening for Vox Pop, and Bill had put this band together. I don't remember what he called it. He might have called it Coanga because he loved Bill. He loved Don and Paul from 45 Grave, and they lived in this weird place on Coanga with the Zolar X guys. So I think that's what it was called. Anyways, I was playing drums, which I can just barely play now, but much less then. And it was, typical covers that Bill liked. I remember this huge long version of Astronomy Domine by Pink Floyd. It was stuff like that. But the funny thing was he had all the electronic stuff for guitars, whatever, all the amps were plugged into this power strip that in turn was plugged into this clock that he hung on the wall and set for 45 minutes. And these songs were all long and jammy. So it must have been a Vox Pop. So that would have been sort of the same idea. And when it hit 45 minutes, the band shut off. That was the show. And I was like, that was kind of the funny. And I'm still drumming, and it's like, okay, that was pretty funny. So, and then, and I think that's when I met Don, and he said, "You are the absolute worst drummer I've ever met." And I mean that as a compliment. I'm all right, I'll take it as I get it.
Coming from one drummer to somebody
Yeah.
trying to,
Yeah.
wow. Cool.
So I have just a curiosity here for you, Michael, and you, Bruce. How did Bill convince people to come along on this journey, like the Beatle Fest, or did he tell you guys, hey, the band's going to shut off after 45 minutes? We're going to play this long jam. I mean, how did he get people to follow him on this?
Well, he was very persuasive. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
He just had this. He just had a way of making you excited about what he was excited about. Very persuasive. The guy would not take no for an answer.
Pretty much it.
So was it his energy or his passion that people found interesting?
It started getting more and more interesting for me as I started getting to know him and then finding out all these mysteries about him, because he had several lives. He, as I don't know, you discussed before, I never understood why, like he started the band White Flag to kind of be a parody of, everything was kind of a parody of something. And I found him to be a very talented guitar player, just scoping him out as he would play stuff for me that he wrote, he would play guitar. And I always thought, but everything about him had to be like he was just a parody of something that was famous or something that was well known. And I always didn't understand, well, don't you just be Bill? Why does everything have to be kind of this, and but he would put a wall up because I would get into these discussions with him. With me, he would put this wall up. Nope, sorry, I can't tell you these. I just do what I do, and I never knew he was a policeman. I mean,
Yeah,
how the hell
kept
did he
that
find
under wraps.
time to fucking become a policeman? You know, I mean, where the fuck did that come from? You know, I mean, the guy was just like, whoa, you know, you just think he's this rock, you know, sycophant, you know, but no, he's like a motorcycle officer. It's like what? Maybe Bruce would know more of this mystery.
You know, he definitely kept that separate. There were, like you said, there were different sides of him. He kept them separated out. And when he was dealing with music, you'd talk about music, and he was kind of a musicologist. Like when you see things like the White Flag record that's a replica of Surrealistic Pillow, he would do those kind of, you know, art things all the time. But then take it on his own spin. He would never just cover something, or if he did cover something, he would make it so identical and that would be sort of hook up. But I forget I think it was something really insane, like Strawberry Fields or something. And he did it at one of his studios in Riverside and just kept putting stuff together on, I believe it was on a Ford. It wasn't on like some elaborate equipment. It was sort of like a 4-track or something like that. He goes, hey, check this out.
Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields. Nothing is real, and nothing to get hung about. Strawberry Fields forever. Strawberry Fields forever. Strawberry Fields forever.
Where'd you get the tapes? He goes, I made them. And I'm like, okay. And, you know, so he would do things that were seemingly impossible as well. So, I mean, he was into it, but, you know, he had his secret lives and he kept that stuff away from, you know, if I'm sure his policeman friend must have respected him, because I remember when he passed away, his house, however this happened, neighbors or people keep an eye on it or whatever. I mean, like within a week or two after he died, somebody broke into his house and stole guitars and stuff. And his cop brothers got that settled out really fast. So, I mean, and those are all people none of us knew. I think the link between all of that, if I had to guess, was his older brother, who was an attorney, and Bill used to work for his brother in later years, just kind of watching people like an investigative guy.
Oh, wow.
Sit in a car and stake people out
wow.
for his brother. So I think that was the connection to the law enforcement world, I think.
Wow. Yeah, so you guys mentioned the fact that Bill was a police officer. And when we spoke to Jeff McDonald, he suggested that we reach out to the Beaumont Police Department, which we did. And I was able to get in touch with a Captain Carl who knew of Bill but didn't know him personally. And he was telling me stories that, oh yeah, Bill used to be a punk rocker. Bill was a rodeo rider, stuff that we already knew, but we wanted to find out more about how Bill was as a police officer. So Captain Carl contacted this Facebook group that they have, which is the Beaumont Police Department Old Timers Group, because none of the people that are on the force now worked with Bill. And it turned out that this Lieutenant Van Buren used to work with Bill, but he didn't have a whole lot to share with us. So we were hoping to bring him on too. But Michael, you shared a story with us that confirmed that he was a police officer, where you ran into a fellow officer in a restaurant.
It was still a mystery at this time. I was playing in the Imperial Butt Wizards with Paul Kay, and Bill was a bit of conversation, because he was such a mystery and nobody we wanted all these, there were so many rumors about him, like the rodeo rider but the policeman thing was a mystery. And I was like, no, he's not a policeman. I mean, like, how could he be a police? I mean, all us rock people were just rock, knowing somebody that had that many, when did he become a policeman? Anyway, so I was out on an antique, we were like junk collectors, record collectors, antique collectors, Paul and I, and we were out in Beaumont on like gonna go visit some antique stores out there or something. And we're at like a Denny's or something like that having lunch. And there is a motorcycle cop having lunch a few tables away from us. And of course, Paul was such an instigator, Paul K. And he's like, Michael, go up to that guy and ask him if he knows Bill Bartell. So I'm like, okay. So I acted like I was going to the restroom. And when I walked back, I saw the officer so I stopped. I said, excuse me, officer, I'm sorry to interrupt your lunch. And he looks up at me and I'm like, I've got a friend on your force. I just wondering if you knew him. His name is Bill Bartell. And right away he smiled and he goes, yeah, I know Bill. Yeah, I don't know if he's working today, but yeah, I know Bill. And I'm like, well, just please tell him Michael said hi. And I walk back the table. I'm like, you're not going to believe this. He knows Bill. So somehow, I don't know if right away when we got home, Paul called the McDonald brothers or did the word got out, but Bill Bartell, I get a frantic phone call from Bill Bartell like the next day or something. What did you do? What did you do? Who did you talk to? I'm like, I'm sorry, Bill. We saw a cop we were in Beaumont and a cop was having lunch and we asked him if he knew.
How do you know it was you?
I think the McDonald brothers called Bill and said, hey, Michael Quercio went up to a cop in Beaumont and asked if he knew you. So Bill called me frantic and angry, frankly. And I said, Bill, no, I just asked him. I didn't say anything. The worlds collided that weren't supposed to collide. And I said, no, it was a 2-second conversation. All I did was ask if you knew him. I didn't say how I knew you. I just said I was a friend. The whole conversation didn't take 2 seconds, and then I can't remember what else Bill said, but yeah, Bill was angry. So the cat was out of the bag that Bill was a cop. And apparently I outed him, which I don't think Bill ever forgave me for, really.
You outed him as a cop.
I outed him as a cop, which I actually thought I was going to go up to this cop and this cop was going to say, I don't know what you're talking about, because I thought the rumor was preposterous. And no, it was true. I knew that Bill had a fetish about uniforms. Like he had a complete Mountie uniform.
A Canadian?
I think Canadian Mount. He had I don't know how, if I had gone to his house or why, my memory's all foggy, but I had seen this collection of he had like the white Navy uniform in his closet. He had this whole, and they were all in like plastic, like from the dry cleaner or whatever, but he had all this collection of uniforms. And so I just thought that the police thing was just because you would see pictures of him. He would do like there were already pictures of him in the cop uniform that he would pose with, I thought, it was a joke. It was just from this collection, but apparently the cop one was real.
Wow.
And then but he was always a fan of mine. And then when I got Permanent Green Light together, we did a demo and he heard the demo and he got us the contract with Gasatank, Dutchies India, and he put all that together and he was really supportive and got us our album and got us an insanely good contract where we got our rights back in 5 years. And he was just really, when he got behind you and he liked you, man, he was your bulldog. He got us we went and played New York and did a convention there. I think it was whatever that music convention. And he flew out with us and got us and the hotel and the plane. And the guy could do anything. He was.
Wow. It sounds like if there was something that he wanted to promote or pass out to people or get behind, he was very, very passionate, right? And
He seemed to just be able to do later as I put it all together in later years. He was just seemed to be a very rare person. Just whatever he put his mind to, he did. And I've never known too many people like that in my life. Pretty amazing.
do you guys have any idea? So it sounds like he very much compartmentalized parts of his life, like the punk rocker, the rodeo rider, the cop. Why would
The record executive,
why do you think he separated this or siloed these parts of his life? Do you guys have any kind of ideas why you think he would want to keep those separate?
Bruce?
If I had to guess, thinking back to Sunnymead itself was kind of rednecky. So I think he kind of grew up thinking like, rock people don't need to know I'm a cop. Cops don't need to know I'm gay. These things don't need to intermingle. And most people, he probably was aware that there wasn't another gay policeman, record exec, rock star, big in Spain around. So he just figured like, I'll just be my army of one, and whoever I deal with in whatever, avenue, that's that. And he just kind of kept it all separated, which, like I say, coming from that area, I kind of see the logic in it for sure.
I was openly out of the closet, and Bill would even joke with me about it, different boyfriends I had or whatever. Bill would never, ever come out to me. Ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
And it's not like it was a big secret or anything, or anybody cared. It was just,
He would not, he just,
I don't know. I was on tour with him in Spain. He went to Spanish bathhouses and the whole band knew it, but he just wouldn't say that's what he did. What did you do last night, Bill? We were all at the hotel we're at. And we knew, but like, who cares if that's what you want to do, man? We don't give a shit. It's your tour. I mean, enjoy yourself.
I never knew that he was gay. I mean, I heard the rumors or whatever. I heard the rumor that he liked a leather bar, whatever it was. I never knew. It was never confirmed to me until he died. That's how much
Well,
he was like, just.
I mean, I got the advanced newsletter when, so I met him tail end of 78. By summer 79, I moved to Hollywood. So, I had this apartment on Harper in West Hollywood, and he got this subscription to a gay magazine called Honcho. So he just had that sent to my house. And my soon-to-be wife comes in and goes, "Did you subscribe to a gay magazine?" And I'm like, says Bill Bartell. No, I think he actually put it in my name, and then he would come by and come up. And then my first wife would read them. She loved the damn things. And then, so that became a thing where he started doing the Gasatanka Records thing. And he, again, the way his mind worked, and coming from that area, he didn't want to have some Sunnymead address on it. So I started, and I had this little, apartment, mailbox. I started receiving the Gasatanka, mail, which were, so he had ad and flip side or whatever it was. And mail was coming in. And then he would come out to my apartment once a week and pick up his mail and his honcho. So
I don't know if right.
But so that was obviously, it was, to me, I felt like he was really hiding it.
But I mean, Bill, I was very openly gay. Bill was funny, was nice. I don't know if I always thought that Bill was a very handsome guy. If you look, there's a picture of us at, all sitting at the Jabberjaw. You put that up?
Yes.
Look at the picture of Bill. Bill was a very good looking guy. Bill had no sexual attraction to me at all. He never came on to me. He never, I was always insulted, but, when I found out later, but no, Bill never, ever, whatever his type was, it wasn't me. But like I said, I never had that confirmed. alluded to something about a friend that was ill. I don't know if he had a friend that had AIDS or something. And Bill was also very curious that I had stayed a devout Catholic, where he had been brought up that and pretty much rejected all that, and was very curious the fact that I would still go to mass and things, and sometimes belittled me for it and things, joke in that. But when his friend got ill, he would ask me to pray. I have a friend, would you pray for my friend? And things like that. And I just kind of put it in my head, okay, there's something, he wouldn't go into detail as to why I should pray for this friend, but just to pray for this friend. And so I just kind of in my head, okay, this guy is ill, or he wants me to pray for a friend who is ill. But again, would just come out and say it. He'd never come out and say it. So
It's very interesting because you were openly gay, and of
Yeah.
all of his friends, you were probably the one that he could probably confide that to.
and yeah, and he
Because-
wouldn't.
Well, it sounds like nobody judged him,
Right.
period. Thankfully, even his straight friends. But it's interesting that that's the one thing that he didn't share with you, and that's one thing that we've learned is that he would. It seems like Bill would just share certain things with certain people, and then not.
And there was no rhyme or reason.
Yeah, like I said, it was compartmentalized. Like, for example, I was more of his hard rock friend. I was more of his guitar slinger friend. Those were the kind of things we tended to talk about, or shows we went to, or that kind of stuff. And, that's how he was. And we were all sort of in that kind of Red Cross camp. Bill is the reason I got into 45 Grave. He introduced me to all those people. When I first moved here, because I'd worked for that magazine, I ended up working for Music Connection, and then it rolled into all those magazines you were mentioning. I would have never done that had that not happened. It wouldn't have occurred to me. But anyway, so I could go to a lot of clubs, and I'd see bands, and Bill would call me, you got to go see this, you got to go see that. And so I was going to see all these bands he was recommending, which I almost universally thought were not good bands. And then one day he sent me to see the Omelets, and I was like, oh, these guys are great. Tell me about more bands like this. I love this. And he goes, okay, you got to go see this band 45 Grave. You're really going to like it. And, he knew I was a Sabbath fan and an Alice Cooper fan and all that kind of stuff. And that all kind of aligns there. And I like the Germs. So that's sort of where all that meets. And I went to the show, and it happened to be the one show in their entire lifespan where Paul was joined by Pat Smear on guitar, and it was mind-blowing. And I was like, okay, this is my favorite band right now. And then the next time he came out to town, they were playing, and he took me backstage, and I met everybody. And then I did a magazine article on him, and then finagled my way into the band when the time was right. But that would have never happened without Bill. And then, it's just one of those things.
Sounds like a lot of things happened because of
Right.
Bill.
He was one of those dudes. Yeah, he connected people. Totally. He goes,
Yeah.
you need to know this person. Do that a lot.
We've heard a lot of stories too about, Bruce, you mentioned just the intensity sometimes of Bill. When he found something he was passionate about, he went full force. If he got an idea in his head, he went with it. But something else that people have said in the past is, when we've had them on to talk about him, is the intensity of his loyalty as a friend. Where people would say, like, he'd call all the time, and it'd be like 2-hour conversations about music, about anything. And people would say, you'd feel this kinship, and then all of a sudden, if you didn't hear from him for a while, it would jar you out, like, what's happening with him, where is he? And about, that compartmentalizing of his life, maybe that distancing. I don't know if some of that, if you think, was maybe protection or whatever, but I think I want to go to the point of this loyalty business of constantly coming back to the people that he cared about and sharing part, but not all of his life. I mean, and as Jeff, when we talked about when he passed away, a lot of people were kind of surprised by it, simply because he had kind of removed himself, or news wasn't being shared. So I want to talk about his friendship with the both of you, the intensity or the loyalty of it.
He was very loyal. He was very supportive. He was very loyal, very supportive. Like I said, he picked. I was kind of I had nothing going on really. And he really just picked up my music and gave it a new avenue. He's like, no, you need to be doing this. You need to, he just made everything happen. He was just a good guy. He was a good guy. And I'm just looking back at it all. And I think unbelievably that a guy that was that open and outgoing he was very insecure. I don't think he believed that he was very talented. And I thought he was, and I would tell him he was, but I don't think,
Point.
I think he did not think he was a good musician. He just kind of wanted to latch on to people that he believed were great, and somehow he could just be part of their thing, when he was actually this incredible talent on his own, and I thought it was, like I said, I always thought he sold himself short on that.
I think there is truth to that.
Anyway, but yeah, just an incredible.
That's possible because like you said, he would gather people around him to do whatever else he wanted to do, but he would always be the instigator, the organizer, the guy that would put it together. I mean, just like the tour I did with him, he had put together a video with Dave Markey to hype it, had the whole thing worked out, got a promoter over there. Javier from the Zeros and I played in the band because the lead guitarist and the bass player he had at the time were in Boogie Nights. And that was when Boogie Nights would do 4 gigs a week, Chicago, Miami, Vegas, and LA. And they made I think they made like 10 grand a week each guy. I mean, it was a pretty happening gig. I mean, they made a lot of money. I don't know if it was that much, but they were like, Bill, we can't go on this tour. So he got me and Javier to do it, but and the whole thing was pretty laid out and figured out by Bill top to bottom. I wasn't really that familiar with the White Flag, like song by song. And yeah, I think that was just kind of typical, like anything I was involved with Bill, of which there were a lot of oddball things that along the way. I was the publicist on the first, I put together the first industry party for the Tater Tots at Club with No Name down on Highland back in the 80s. And, just things because he knew I could do it. And then he brought in this whole crazy show and, just things like that would come up. I think the oddest thing I ever got involved with Bill on, he would sometimes come to me, just like the Red Cross guitar thing, when he thought I could maybe pull off something some of his other friends might not have an angle on. So he calls me up one day and goes, can you play country and Western lead guitar? And I'm like, no, but yeah, I guess I can figure it out. I mean, why? And so do you know this story?
No.
I would think it would have come out. Okay.
No.
Bill got a big publishing deal with Warner Brothers. He got signed as a songwriter.
Wow.
To Warner Brothers because, I don't remember I wish I had more info. I could look it up for you, but you could probably find it online. There was a White Flag song that this band in Sweden, who he described to me as the soul asylum of Sweden, covered, and it hit the charts. He had a hit in Sweden.
Wow.
I hear a lot of talk been going around town. Getting crazy, you've been messing downtown. Oh, no, no, no. I don't care what you say, and I don't care what you do. Get a lose, it's all up to you.
Well, who's this guy that wrote this song? This is great. Signed him to a deal. If you ever saw the fancy ass car he drove around the last 12 years of his life, that's how he got it. He got this big advance from Warner Brothers, ran right out and bought himself an expensive car. And then he was like, okay, now what do I do? I've got this deal. What do I do? And they go, well, write songs for us. He's like, okay, well, what do you need? Okay, so this is where it gets weird. Warner's, so he's signed to Warner's in Europe, but he deals with Warner's in America. So here's the guy that has this big power pop hit in Europe, and they ask him to write country songs. That makes no sense. And that's the music business for you. Why would anything make sense? So he's like, well, but Bill, being Bill, was like, well, fuck, I'll go for it. So he starts digging into country and Western and like, what do I like? What makes sense to me? And he lands on Brooks and Dunn because to him, that's the Kiss of country music. They're coming on stage and they got steers and a big setup and it's a whole farm is on stage and it's a big show and one guy can't sing, so they run him through a bunch of gadgets and it's just the whole thing. And he takes to it. So he starts buying Brooks and Dunn shirts. He starts riding a fucking rodeo. I mean, he goes far deep into redneck stuff than anyone else in Sunnymead I ever knew. And so he calls me up, let's do some country. You got anything? And we started writing songs together, which went nowhere. I was working for this company that did some placements and stuff. I went to the country guy. I go, why is this stuff failing? To which he said, it sounds like rock guys dumbing down, which I thought was, wow. Okay, you're probably 100% right. But I mean, he went into it and then he took me to we went to see Brooks and Dunn at the, I want to say it was Long Beach Arena. He got us on the list and it was a total Bill Bartell production. I mean, he had the whole outfit, the hat, the super expensive cowboy boots. And he wanted me, I go, I don't have those clothes, man. I can't look like that. And we got backstage. You'll love this. He said, he called somebody in, I think Reba McEntire was the actual headliner. It was a co-headliner with him. But he called Reba McEntire's people and said, yeah, I'm the rep for Courtney Love, and she's really into Reba McEntire all of a sudden, and we need passes for me and Courtney. So they gave him passes. And then he shows up with me, and they're all like, where's Courtney? And I didn't know the story at the time. I'm just sort of the dupe coming along and he just wants me to be exposed to this whole world. And I'm just like, what have you done? You've lost your mind. But that was Bill, like, okay, I'm country now. And he just went for it, like at a level I couldn't even imagine.
Wow, this is crazy. I've never heard that story. Were you familiar
I
with
never
this?
knew that story.
I
Wow.
love it.
Yeah, I mean, I got a whole, like, I think he sent me a tape called Brooks and Duff, and like it was all of our demos. I would drive out to, he had a little, I guess it was a 16-track ADAT studio in his house. And that's where we do everything, get it as close as we could get it to what we wanted. He was pretty, he had that stuff down pretty good.
Brooks and Duff. That is so funny. That's hilarious. We did hear stories about how Bill could get backstage to any show somehow. And that's interesting that he called as a representative for Courtney Love.
I know that he Kiss and Simmons, and I remember a story where I was a big Kiss fan, and he would talk to me about Kiss, and I would tell him how that song from Hotter Than Hell, Going Blind, is such a great song. And I go, God, that's a perfect pop song, Bill. I wish they would do stuff like that. And then, I don't know, months later, Bill's like, oh, Michael, do you know that I told Simmons what you said about I told you, I got Gene Simmons, I got them to do that on some European television show. Or something.
What? So after,
Like they had gotten back together for the Psycho Circus period, he got them to go on blind.
so did he say?
And that was, and he told me that you're the one that gave me the idea to go tell them to go do that. So I was like, wow, Bill, thanks. That's great.
Is that a link to why the Melvins covered Going Blind?
Probably.
See,
That's
so
Bill.
many connections. So just weaving through.
Yeah. So we've heard that Bill was a pretty big prankster. Were you guys ever the victim or participants in any pranks that Bill was playing?
Well,
Pranksters were,
Go ahead.
Jeff and Steve Arnold were the king pranksters. So I don't know if they had anything to do with Bill's, but
probably.
they were the kings of calling people up and like making you believe it was some famous person. They would punk people all the time. I don't know if Bill got it from them or.
So what about you, Bruce? Did you ever have?
Well, one thing that kind of ties, I wouldn't say it was a prank, but you're getting any kind of show. Like after I moved here, I got a job working at the print shop that did all the Troubadour tickets because I knew that guy. I just needed to make money. So because I was at a print shop, Bill bought me this, I don't know how he got somehow he got a thing that was the actual replica of the deal, but I was printing for him forum passes. So like laminated forum passes, but the trick was that the forum would change the color all the time, so you couldn't just like show up with your old forum pass and get in. So he had a rainbow of them from me, and he went to every show backstage free through the forum club.
Wow.
Wow.
So he just used the passes that you had printed up in a variety of
Yeah,
colors.
it was his idea. Go, these will totally get people into the forum club, and so I was like, all right. So I printed. I mean, I could usually, because of magazines and stuff, I could usually get on a list, and I didn't really want to be busted with bootleg passes. But he never got caught. It always worked, and he'd get whoever he needed backstage. So it was actually, I'm surprised more people didn't do it when I saw how easy it was. But that was another thing he thought of.
But he had the guts to go through with it. It sounds like.
Yeah.
So can you?
Oh, I wouldn't call it guts. It was just tenacity, and he would always just bullshit his way into anywhere. Good at that.
That does take some tenacity to do that, and I would say a little bit of guts.
Yes.
So, how did you guys end up finding out about Bill's passing? Was it through connections with Jeff and Steve, or?
I think I was on Facebook and it just started seeing these people saying R.I.P. Bill Bartell or something, and I think I made a phone call to somebody, and
Bruce,
I was actually at a recording session out in the valley, and my friend, through the Tater Tots Association, is known as Tuesday, but her real name is Morgan. She called me right away because she said, I don't want you to read about this online.
Right.
So I heard about it.
Wow. So Bill's gone, but his legacy continues. So here we are still talking about it. We've learned recently that there's probably a documentary or two in the works. So I did get some confirmation that somebody's working on that. I don't know if it's my place to share, so I won't. But it sounds like there's a documentary in the works, and I really appreciate you guys taking time to talk with us, because we love learning more about this guy. He's such a mystery, and he just seems like an amazing person. I'm sure he was a good friend to you guys, and thank you so much for taking time and sharing stories with us.
Thank you guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you guys. Take care.
very
Nice
much.
meeting you, Bruce.
Nice meeting you, Michael.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much for sharing today. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye, Bruce.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right, Soraya. So we learned a little bit more about Bill. I love that.
It's like peeling back one layer of onion and seeing 1,000 more.
Yeah.
But Michael and Bruce definitely confirmed some other things from the music side, but there are things as him as a person. I like this. I like hearing about him looking out for people and looking for opportunities for people to plug in. Like how many times did he bring Bruce in, by Bruce's own anecdotes, or tell him about 45 Grave, or bands that he was interested in. This is a really complex person.
Yes. Yeah. So again, I'm reminded, especially from some things that Bruce was sharing, so many people, well, Michael too, and talking about permanent green light, so many people advanced in things in their lives as a result of knowing Bill. Permanent green light with doing the tours. Bruce, pretty much a lot of things happened for him, like in journalism. Well, that was starting to happen prior to that in Moreno Valley or in Riverside County prior to that. But a lot of things seem to happen because of knowing Bill and Bill's passion and tenacity, using Bruce's word, as a result of Bill's life and Bill's passion. It's just amazing that all these things we talk about, Os Mutantes, and just how they exploded in the U.S. We've
It's a Bill,
Yeah, because of Bill.
you
Right,
know.
right. And I thought Michael shared a great point about the fact that Bill maybe didn't understand how talented he really was. I thought that was an
Yeah,
interesting point that we haven't discussed yet. Um, because obviously the guy was talented in many different ways as a
right.
performer, just as a promoter, all these different things, and his passion, and so many people were drawn to him. And I thought that was an interesting thing. And then also new to me was the story, the um, what Bruce was sharing about the country and Western, and him being being brought up as a writer of country and Western songs.
Signed to Warner, Warner Europe, based on a cover of a White Flag song
Right?
done by what did he call them? The band, they were
The Sweden, the Swedish band. I think I think he might have performed with them. I've seen videos online.
I
I'm
mean,
trying to remember their name.
think about all those moving parts though, right? And then, I think this is the part that I keep being I don't think surprised is by it's like there's a great Spanish word for it, but not one in English. Something that keeps coming back to me about Bill is it's like he had a magic wand. Like he could just make things happen and never said no. It seems like he never said no to anything and was willing to try it. And if it piqued his interest enough, he laser focused and did a lot with it. And then, but he also jumped around a lot to different things, okay, right here, now this, now that, now this, now that, now that. And creative, artistic, definitely had a vision, but I think then, you bring in what Michael said, where he never really understood or saw himself as talented as he was. And from what both Bruce and Michael and others have said, he definitely had the talent for it.
Oh yes.
And he definitely showed it. So it's just interesting to me, why so many parts of his life never truly connected. Except for, I think Bruce brought a really interesting point forward. His brother, Bill's brother, created one link, one potential link, like the brother was a lawyer and law enforcement, there was a potential link, but it seems like maybe the brother could have been the one thread, but I don't know, but Bill wanted to keep parts of his life separate. And, reminds me of that Seinfeld episode where George says, my worlds are colliding and I'm not happy. It's like George's worlds need to be separate. And maybe that was it for Bill, is like he just felt better when his rock life was rock life, his punk life was punk life, his country life was country life, his cop life was cop life, and so on.
Yeah, and so on, and so on. Yeah, and it was interesting that Michael said that Bill was genuinely angry that these two worlds collided, right? When Michael approached the police officer
Yeah.
in the restaurant, and Bill wasn't happy about that. Oh, by the way, the band is Sator, I think.
SATOR
SATOR. I don't know how to pronounce
with the O with the toot.
it. Yeah, yeah. You got to help me with my Swedish. So
Trust me, I can't. But now I'm gonna Sator. See, I'm gonna do a little quick Google. Hold on.
yeah, but I'm glad that we took this time to have yet another episode focusing on Bill. It's more and more different angles that we learn with each person that we talk to. Michael's certainly shared some things that we haven't heard to this point, and same with Bruce, and Bruce going all the way back to 78, and meeting Bill. So
And think about it. A magazine out out in what's it, Sunnymead,
Yeah.
you know,
Now Moreno.
small magazine that then just said, I want to write for it. Boom. And I love that Bruce showed us a copy
Yes.
of the last issue.
Yes.
The New Rocker. That was the name of the
Yeah.
magazine.
It looked like the New Yorker, but they changed to New Rock.
Perfect. And I mean, the typeface was identical.
Yes.
But I don't know. Bill Bartell is kind of like the Magic Man, because seemed like there was no barrier that he didn't want to break through.
Absolutely. And he broke through them.
Oh yeah. No.
If you-
To have a rainbow of Forum Club passes,
Oh my
never paid for a show. Hats off.
Yeah.
That's baller work.
Agreed.
But I mean, we've been really fortunate to have now 3 shows on Bill Bartell.
Yeah.
And I think we're still scratching the surface.
Yeah. So I am really looking forward to this documentary. So I spoke to somebody who's who's had the project green lit. So again, I don't think it's my place to share who is working on this yet, but it sounds like there is going to be a documentary or two. Even Dave Markey had mentioned he was thinking of one too. This is the person I talked to was somebody different. But it certainly seems like good documentary material.
100%.
And
maybe we'll learn more.
Yeah. Oh, I'm certain that we will. Yeah. And it's unfortunate that we couldn't get somebody from the Beaumont Police Department. It looked for a little bit like that was going to happen. I had a couple contacts and talked to a few people, but in the end, it sounds like nobody wanted to share with us other than what we already knew. So that didn't help. But it has been verified that he was a police officer, and
Yeah.
hopefully when this documentary comes out that we will get to learn more about Bill, because this has been a blast talking to the people that we've talked to.
We got to know a little more about him as a musician. I'm really intrigued what these documentaries can uncover about him, the rodeo rider.
Yeah.
The cop. I mean, there's a lot to go. So
Yes.
for now, I say gente a groovear.
Groove on, Paisley people.